Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Santa Monica, California. Today is June 17th, 2021. Welcome, wherever you may be. Today is a continuation of a series of talks that I've been giving on my personal condition, interspersed with the psychological, the spiritual, the existential, my own learning, and perhaps it applies to you or inspires something valuable in your own life. I was asked yesterday by several people if I would just update, now that I'm just days away from moving here from Los Angeles after nearly a year to the Hawaiian island of Maui. I'll explain more about that. If I would just talk more about where I sit, how I feel. And so today is that the expression based on those invitations. It's called moving on. And I dare say, with some degree of restraint and courage, not looking back. And if I may, just the serendipity of my normal style, just to be in spontaneity with you. There's a part of me when I use the word I am done. It's not that I'm done living. I'm just talking to myself here on my walk this morning. But I'm really done with the narrative. I never have based my life on dying. It's so blatantly obvious, isn't it? That we're encased in this biological, self-destructing organism of causality. Everything is impermanent. Everything is in flux. Everything is evanescent. Everything lives, breathes, swims, flies, crawls, dissolves, dies. I want to say, so the fuck what? I never have defined my life based upon it. And so what? That there's some phantasmagorical scientific medical machinery that has so-called diagnosed this upper ascending aorta that is enlarged, yes, and yes, some doctors have said you are a ticking bomb, yes, yes, yes. And as I sit today and as I've matured into this process, there's a part of me that is just wanting to ramble on. Just live my life, sing my song, and find, the goddess, the God, the Dharma, the nibbāna, the arhat of my deeply felt dream of why life is life to me, the meaning of life, the purpose of life for me. I want to realize the Buddhist Pali concept of the arhanta, the transcendence of conditions that give rise to delusion, fear, and greed. Yes, I'm a dreamer, I'm an idealist, I'm a meditator. And so I do believe firmly in that process. And so I wanted to move on. I'm leaving here in Los Angeles. It's been an incredibly challenging period here in mandatory lockdown, and all of a sudden, everywhere you go here on Ocean Boulevard in Montana, and masks off, packed shoulder to shoulder, concerts and athletic occasions just packed. Where did COVID go? There's all these new strains and variants, and Delta and Alpha and Fauci and Wuhan and Xi Jinping. There's a big kind of like I'm done, been there, done that. Yes, yes, yes. What do I want is the question I'm asking. And I want to move on. And yes, this is my way of processing that edge. I can't be firm in the concrete of yes, this is absolute. But I want to move on. I'm moving on. I'm leaving here on the 25th of June. My beloved friend, Summer Richardson on Maui, through the act of her grace and the devas that surround her life, the angel that she is, she's manifested this beautiful, little, elegant, simple cottage on a piece of property in Kula on the island of Maui, and there I'll go. There's a little adjacent temple where I've been invited, and I kind of seemingly want to co-create a small little worldwide retreat with those people who want to come for those days of July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And my old-time ally and friend and Karen Jeffries has offered to organize those 20 people that may want to come out, 10 to 1 in the morning and 1 to 4 in the afternoon, these 2 sessions. Contact her. Let Summer know. Let Karen know. Find them on Facebook. And equally, anyone out there who wants to volunteer their time to create a Zoom interaction for people to register on Eventbrite. I want to offer it freely on Dana. But the reason for the Zoom is that I want to interact. I want people who are in my life, who want to participate, to feel that they have a chance to talk. And if that comes to be, please extend your volunteer support and create it. And if not, I'll live stream it so that people can see it. But I'm rambling on. I'm moving on. I am temporarily going to this island that I first arrived at decades ago to be. Another thing that's come to mind too is I never have defined my life either based on mortality. It's such a certainty. It's so kind of anachronistic to make a deal of it. There's inherent drama. I look back at the last 3 months since this diagnosing. I'm not going to vilify it or demonize it or, criticize it. But there's a part of me, and maybe you feel the same, is enough already, right? Enough already. And I've not defined my life on healing or dying or aging. It's like, I'm not going to revert to some kind of, I'm in a healing process. Healing what? I just want to simply put it all behind. Yes, call it elegant, existential, meditatively informed denial. Okay, I'll give a workshop on it so you can participate too in the Anthropocene, the great sixth extinction that we're in. I spent a year here. I've spent 5 years prior to that deeply diving in metaphysically, scientifically, looking at the data, trying to bring together and connect the dots. Are we really over the cliff of climate collapse? Is the economy over the edge and fiat will become obsolete? And if you don't own Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever the other cryptocurrencies, you'll never survive. Yes, those narratives are kind of, sort of okay, somewhat, maybe a little bit okay, compelling. But by and large, I'm just not down with it at the moment. There's a part of me that just wants to ramble on, to use, a title of a Led Zeppelin song. Move on, Alan, move on. Put it behind you. I think I might even have the first of my new 10 commandments, anti-chiseled on my cognitive anti-soul. Don't ask yourself, Alan, how you're doing. Just live out front. Live out loud, as it's been said. Live out crazily on the stage of the trans-spiritually incorrect. play in the wild, dark, invenerating, beautiful satire of like, fuck it, man. Who cares? Never have defined my life based on healing. And I hope you heal. I hear myself healing and I'm sobbing at night. I want to get back on antidepressants. I want to do sleeping pills. I want to have mega doses of CBD and just put me out. Let me cry. Let me feel. Oh, poor me. Victim, victim, victim. I'm big diagnosed. Okay, I'm exaggerating. Yes, every one of us are dying. Let's just pause right there for a minute. You might die. You will die. Guaranteed you will die ASAP. And as it's been said by a lot of environmental scientists, you know, the collapse that we're in, the extinction that we're in, and the five previous extinctions, including the Great Dying 250 million years ago. The sixth that we're in is happening faster than all five. Wow. From a existential, cosmological point of view, as it's been said, instantaneous. That's so rad. I mean, if we were on DMT right now, or a low or high or mega subtle dose of psilocybin, and we heard that existence at large, the earth, you and me, every living creature, every crawling creature, every swimming creature, every bird, every cloud, every molecule is in this evanescent change. And suddenly 200 million years, Mother Earth that gives us sunscreen to keep off the burn and keeps our soil tilled enough to grow corn and grains to keep us humans alive and the animals, and will disappear based on the flames engulfing our home at this very moment. Whoa, man, let's heal that dilemma. Well, that's what got me involved in Eastern philosophy and yoga and meditation, and primarily the word Dhamma, but also in the Sanskrit word Dharma. These two words, very interchangeable, slightly different, in my humble estimation, are the most important concept, experience, application of consciousness within context that I know. Why? Because on the one hand, Dhamma is the embodiment, the cognitive, meditative, yogic embodiment of freedom in action. We are dedicated to examining the textures of greed, anger, and delusion, and all the 10,000 nuances that you could find in a book of synonyms and antonyms that come back to lobha, dosa, and moha, to use the Pali language, and their opposites: generosity, loving kindness, compassion, patience, the overcoming of kilesa, self-constricting states of consciousness, the ways in which consciousness, out of habit and conditioning, creates conflict for itself, felt as suffering, despair. How many of us have lived in overlapping depressions? What is depression? I don't really feel that I belong to this cult of existence in the way that I've been conditioned to believe. And now that I have a little bit of an eye, a telescope up out of my own narcissism, temporary as it is, oh my God, look what's going down in Myanmar today. Boys and girls are being assassinated and shot. Just one little leap over the hill of separation, and all of a sudden I go, that could be me. That's my daughter. That's my friend. That's my mother. Oh my God. Let's not play in the world of empathy. I'd rather keep a separation buffer between me and them, right? Dharma and yoga on the terms of my need rather than on a courageous engagement. I want to move on. Life has never been about dying or healing. Point one. Thank you for hanging. Thank you for being out there. You know, years ago when I was a monk, my beloved teacher in Kalyanamitta, the late Venerable Seda U Pandita, I was sitting with him in his room at the Mahasi Ekta in Rangoon, and a nun, an elderly nun, came in and they began to talk in Burmese. I could understand just a little bit. And I always loved to watch what I felt to be conscious yogis relate. is something that I've learned over the years. I don't know, maybe it's just my own kind of 12th, 13th, 18th, 16th century European apprenticeship attitude coming through. But I like watching people who are cool. I don't mimic them, but I learn by observation. I see someone do an asana, I can look at them, and yes, I can hear them and how they guide me, but a meditator, a teacher, how they embody their dharma, how they embody their right speech, how they embody their loving kindness, how they speak about their compassion, how they interrelate, the energy, the textures. He and she were talking, it was very beautiful. Then all of a sudden they broke into English and said, and she said to me, Sayadaw was my teacher when I was an early young nun, and he named me, ordained me. In my meditation practice, I found that out of habit and conditioning, I pretty much incessantly referred to my meditation practice as difficult. In other words, how do you say in your language, in English, is it a victim of circumstance? And I said, yeah, that's pretty close to it. It's like it's never going to be quite right, and it's always predictably wrong. And it shouldn't be the way it is, whatever the narrative is, that it's me being done. And she said, right, victim. And so I overcame this obstacle based upon Sayadawji's very deliberate, sensitive Dhamma guidance. And I began to see that difficulties were opportunities. Cliched as that is, okay, right out of a Tony Robbins workshop. Difficulties became opportunities. Kilesa wasn't to be vilified. Greed, anger, and delusion wasn't to be demonstratively subjugated as wrong, but at the edge, the confluence of where consciousness meets these kilesas. It's a cognitive dance, a conceptual, cognitive, existential, spiritual. You know, this invisibility that we're sharing right now, that field, that in ecosystem, therein lies the yogi. That's the life of the meditator, and a being who can embody alignment of Dhamma values and principles with purposeful engagement. That's mindfulness, that's intelligence to overcome kilesa. And Sayadawji guided me well to overcome my victimhood. And when I ordained as a nun, she said, he named me a Buddhist Pali word, and she offered, how is it said in English? And Sayadawji said, because he had been to America, same old story. I don't know about you, but the Burmese, especially the monastics, especially the Kalyanamitas that are very talented, are very skilled in an elegant satirical mockery of your own inabilities. And they don't coddle egos like West Coast Dharma teachers or East Coast Dharma teachers or European Dharma teachers or Alan Clements, whatever. There's no like, let's make sweet talk out of the edge and go, oh, let's just kiss it to death. They play with this rad edge of, if you can't mock and satirize your own, you know, your own complexities, you're still kind of dancing in a weird little shadow story with it, right? And it's a way that I found, hey, man, it's not like I'm saying same old story, but pretty close to it. I've been listening to myself now since April 11th, and prior to that, for months and years too, it's like a little bit of the same tiring, somewhat, okay, dude, you've been diagnosed out of some weird thing that happened because you got a fractured rib from excessive yoga, sneezing, or whatever, and they found this aorta aneurysm. It's like, okay, dude, so the fuck what? So what? It's a ticking bomb. That's his fear bomb. You don't have to buy it. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Don't predict your own suffering. You don't need morphine around your neck. You don't need a fentanyl patch on your ass, your neck. You don't need to be on sleeping pills. You don't need to be recreating those things to buffer you from the feeling embodiment of a sensitive presence. Ramble on. All morning, all yesterday, I've been listening to, You know, Steve Grohl of the Foo Fighters at Wembley and some years back with Robert Plant, and they're doing Ramble On. Go on YouTube and listen to it. I was listening to it prior to this talk. Ramble On, man. About 100,000 people in Wembley, and he's just belting it out. Move, I've got to move on. Find the goddess, the God, the Dhamma of my nibbānic arhanta dreams. It's time to leave it all behind. I'm not going to Maui, in other words, to heal. I have no interest in doing some kind of group workshop on death and dying, man. Go find someone who does that. Go resurrect Stephen Levine or something, or get Ram Dass out of the grave. I'm not down with that. I'll talk about rad, erotic, satirical, humorous, existential satire. I'll talk about, adventure. And yes, Alan, hold yourself accountable to what you're saying. Now, I don't know about you, but other Buddhist words that have really come to mind that have really helped me to understand this narrative of how I unknowingly at times indulge is a little bit strong, but just murk out, like I become a little bit murky based upon a kind of habitual co-association with praise and blame. Just as the Buddha said, I think it was Dhammapada, 6.8 something, 1, just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not affected by praise and blame and gain and loss, pleasure and pain, fame and shame, those dyads. Okay, that's an ideal. But I am not interested in those dimensions right now. Not today, and I pray when I go to Maui, although this place is only for 10 days. I've applied for a visa also to Bali. Priority number 1 is I want to be in sacred space, to play, to evoke, to germinate, to adventure, to meditate, to do yoga. I'm going to have a whole list of things. People have asked me, what are you going to do? I'll be explaining in a minute. But what I don't want to do is to continue to play in drama. I'm going to, I think, hold myself accountable to putting this behind me and just compartmentalizing it, existentially sealing that shit off. And hey, I would never have even known if it wasn't for that CTA scan at Santa Monica General Hospital up the street here 3 months ago. And this is a beautiful Dhamma challenge. It's not dancing with the angel of death. A little bit, I got a lot of mileage out of that, Alan. Okay, you got it. But now that you've processed, okay, you got a little bit of that nun in you from Seda Upandita, a little bit of that hold yourself accountable, a little bit of that same old story. I'm a victim. I wish it hadn't happened. What's new, dude? It's not denial. Hey, get the surgery, save your life. You can spend life with your daughter, I'm not an existential fireman for myself. It's just not my thing. I'm not going to put a ladder up the inner carcass of my consciousness and have that aorta, just cut out, the valve replaced, and the arch all pig-skinned in so that I can get a second aneurysm or a third aneurysm. Yes, I'm going to be talking to a friend who put me in touch with a friend at 4 today who's recently had the surgery, just to stay attentive. But I want to make music, I want to make love, I want to do yoga, I want to laugh, I want to play. I don't want to act as if I'm fucking dying as a spiritual agenda. I was realizing it's I'm getting trapped in the medical Western narrative. And it's I've been in LA long enough. It's time to ramble on. And, Maui, I've had a lot of history, and I've got a couple of beloved family friends that I pray all works out where they come. And we're able to play and dance and talk and walk and eat and love. And if that happens, great. And I'll give it a go, I'll look. But my sense is I want to go to where there's the sacred kind of play, where it's easier, not so constrained by the financialism of the islands. I mean, just pause there. Maui is like, it's like Wall Street in the Pacific. Money, money. I'm just looking at some of the real estate in Wailea, in Kihei. It starts at like $27 million properties. And all you think about is Zuckerberg's, who bought that big property on Kauai. And, there's a relatively nice condominium, 4,000 miles from the coast for like $5.5 million. And it's like, it's never been my thing. I'm so much more comfortable with the people of the world. I don't like even driving. I don't like sitting in a car. I've walked primarily for the last year around here. And although I've been blessed to get a car rental and paid for by a patron, astronomical costs compared. Even the New York Times was doing an article a couple of days ago on people driving around the island with $700-800 a day U-Hauls. That is the wackiest, sickoest Truman Show that I have heard. And it's not easy to restrain the nun story on the island. It's the same old story of like, I'm really a spiritual person, but I want to make profit. I'm really down with yoga, but cash is queen. And it's like there's something so distasteful. I hate to be an old person about this. When I first went to Maui, when I first went to Burma, when I first went to Bali, first went to Byron Bay, you could walk the streets and people would come out and feed you, love you, hug you, talk with you, right? Well, still those old values are virginal today on the earth wherever we go. And I'm going to encourage myself to drop the same old story of buying my satirical criticism of the sellouts, of the capitalist, quote, spiritualists, of all those, I'm going and it's going to be cool, but it's like, I anticipate that long ass drive from Kula, Namaste, something like that, all the way down. I was looking to Kahului, how many miles from Kula to Whole Foods? And I realized, oh yeah, Whole Foods is owned by Amazon today, and Amazon is like the delivery rip-off king, queen of the world. It's like, yep, will they deliver? I mean, that's like asking if the postal services deliver mail, or UPS, or FedEx delivers. I'm sure Whole Foods will be coming to Kula, because I have no interest in being in a car. I don't have any interest in being isolated. That kind of like scares me. You know what I mean? At this stage of life. In Bali and other places, I have no anxiety. I don't know what that is about you, but it's like I feel like, wow, this is really interesting to feel not invulnerable, but not prone to like collapse or vulnerability or the narratives of victim or sadness or despair. Yes, they're there. Yes, who wouldn't scream and cry at the end of nature that we know it? The disintegration of values and principles, the lies and the distortion, you know as well as I do. The insults to conscience and dignity that are going on around the world. A bioweapons program by these prophet sociopath Fauci and the organizations and the billions of dollars that this man has been bestowed with to fund what's been known as gain of function, increasing the lethality of a virus. Dude, open your mouth, man. We talk about each other doing ayahuasca. I say we should have a global campaign that advocates that Dr. Anthony Sociopathic Fauci immediately does a high dose of ayahuasca. Doesn't go to Peru. He does it right in New York, in his penthouse, or in Washington, wherever the dude is hanging. And Biden can do it as well with him, along with Secretary Blinken, along with everyone at the United Nations, along with the EU, okay? Quote me. Do ayahuasca. Purge yourself of those evil tendencies of complacency in forever wars and profit and privilege and the Great Reset, and even you, Mr. Klaus, in Davos. Open your mouth, man. Wake up, right? That's where I want to go. Not about me healing my aorta. So anyway, I know I'm just ranting, but so be it. Coming to the end. So what am I going to be doing? This is just my way of processing. I'm not trying to tell you anything. If you have interest in the July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, I don't know what other better word to call it, gathering. It's a better word than retreat. And it's going to be spontaneous. I have no write-up about it. I'm just not into those things anymore. You know, meditation, practice. What kind of meditation? Well, don't come. It's okay. I'll just keep talking to myself in my camera. But if you're interested, I want to meet the sacred, cool people who want to meet me. It's primarily a personal thing. It's like Biden went to Europe. There was a so-called summit. I'd like to hear and meet and talk and relate to the heightened creatures on the island of Maui, or anyone in the Hawaiian chain, or anyone on the mainland or in the world who wants to come there if you desire so. I'm told that we could have room up to 20. You'd have to carpool, but reach out to Karen Jeffries. You can find her on Facebook. I'll post something up soon. If you're interested, you know, I don't know how to organize it exactly, but there it is. It's going to happen, God willing. And also, if you're interested to participate on Zoom, primarily my interest is that I can hear you and meet you. And I'm going to also introduce, coming up very shortly, a once or twice or 3 times a week Zoom World Dharma Forum, which I like interacting. I like the dynamic spontaneity of shared space. And so anyone who would like to set that up for us, or me and you, please reach out to me, because I don't want to just, you know, say I have so much on my plate, which is true, but please assist in that process if you have that ability. And like I said, I'm going to be on the island for at least 10 days. It's an adventure. I want to see and feel the serendipity of what appears to be a type of destiny from here to there. I want to take from my cognitive emotional field any stress and anxiety out of this story. I want to increase my delight, my piti, my joy, my radiance. I want to start again. This is my way of talking to myself. I want to reignite passionate living. I want to put it behind me. Please, if I can invite you, but try to refrain from asking how I'm doing. And if I can invite you, please no longer ask if I'm getting surgery or not. I'd like to put that behind me. It's been expressed. I'm not getting it at this time. I'm not ruling it out, but I am moving forward. I'm putting it all behind me right now. And I don't even want to play in the odds of survival or dissection or rupture of the aorta. I want to put it behind me. So if you could participate in that with me, it'd be a great emotional, spiritual Dharma gift to, on the one hand, cease those narratives, those questions. And if you want to support me, okay. Whatever way that you want to do that. I want to offer my work, which I've been doing for several years now, based upon how Dharma was offered to me, freely. I walk softly in my life. I walk softly on the land as much as possible, despite the fact being a hypocritical consumer, flying here and there, driving here and there. I want to offer my work, my Dharma, my interactions openly, freely on Dana. And if you want to support it, that's your choice. I have numerous ways in which my nonprofit can be accessed. I also have projects that really touch my heart. Ian and Terry and Gemma, friends of mine from Bali in Italy, last year generously offered and edited a week-long film shoot where I shared what felt to me to be 40 10-minute nuggets of my understanding of the meaning of world Dharma. And my colleague, personal assistant, friend, Fergus Harlow, co-author of the books Burma's Voices of Freedom, is presently, along with my support, constructing a 3-tier World Dharma online trans course that I'm going to offer freely on Dana. And it's really interesting to me to see that. And one of the reasons for it is that I personally like the interaction on a Dharma level. I like the spontaneity of that. And one of the most missing things that I've seen in life is non-orthodox, non-traditional, non-coercive conversation/dialogue, Dharma dialogue, Dhamma inquiry, spontaneity of shared space to co-create in a type of existential, sapio-sexual, erotic dialogue, Dhamma aesthetics. You play in these shared spaces. And the World Dharma Forum, which I initiated back in Vancouver after having left the Balkans in the former Yugoslavia in the mid-90s, that's what I created, and I want to recreate that within the World Dharma online course, trans course, that will be coming out, I think, in the next several months. I'm speaking tonight with a beautiful gentleman from Bali who is willing to develop the technology to deliver the World Dharma course, as well as the digital protocol of the websites where videos and audios. And I want to also support, I say this with humility, so many people have asked me if I would be willing to mentor them. I like talking, but the concept of mentoring is a little bit strange. But with this unveiling, I'm going to offer those who wish to play in the realm of mentoring an opportunity to do that anywhere in the world that you may be involved. And that'll be an option also within the different tiers of this trans course that's being presented through video and also distinct, what I call documenting the evidence of your liberation. I have developed over the many years very interesting questions, self-reflective questions that I ask myself. And if you could see my house and my place, I write so much and I take notes. It's not writing like detailed sentences, but I live in the world of kind of cognitive collages and draw pictures and thoughts. And so that's coming out soon. I also, the book, Extinction X-Rated, which I wrote for myself. Thank you for buying and reading it. It's actually the first of a trilogy, and the next one is called Rebirth. And I found that a very powerful concept that my late teacher, the Venerable Seda U Pandita, reawakened in me prior to his death. It wasn't so much rebirth after death, but it was rebirth within life. Something very radical about shedding skins, shedding conditionings, and fast framing, wow, I'm a different creature, I'm a different self, I no longer am that. There's connections and there's roots, but I am rebirthing. I want to write that book, and I also have one of my reasons for Bali, it's opened up. There's a great theater there, the Paradiso, that I want to do a new show. I just love the interactive spontaneity of live theater. I want to do that. Lastly and firstly, I'll close here, and thank you for being with me today, is I feel that there is just something about the mystical adventure that excites me. You may or may not know that the concept of a Buddha is based upon the concept of what's known in Buddhist Pali as the Bodhisattva, or in Sanskrit, Bodhisattva. And it's an aspiration, as I understand it, to engage existence, concurrent multiple existences, with the deep chaitana, the intention that there is no obstacle too great not to integrate Dhamma transformation with. Now, mind you, I quoted the Dhammapada, just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not affected by praise and blame, gain and loss. The Bodhisattva concept plays right into what Seda U Pandita talked about, and also Da Aung San Suu Kyi talks about it, is quivering with freedom. It's the non-ideological emotionality of the Bodhisattva, quivering at the face of complexity, engaging struggle with courageous quivering. It's never easy to coexist with freedom and fear. Rather than the absence of fear, in the ideology of being free of fear, quivering with our fear, quivering with our freedom. And that to me is a very beautiful quality rooted in what's called the twin motivations of the Bodhisattva, or the twin motivations of the Bodhisattva, the twin motivations of what the traditional text refer to as the motivation of a Buddha to become a Buddha. It's just a brilliant concept. The twin motivations are out of compassion for the suffering in self and other. I want to, this is my translation obviously, to enact, embody, transform, personalize, trans-personalize the overcoming of greed, anger, and delusion. Out of compassion, to be more skillful in the role of interacting with other to support them in overcoming their kilesa, thus karuna or compassion. That one motivation. The second motivation is rarely ever talked about, which is I don't know how to say it exactly, but mystical adventure, existential rebellion, an elevating, courageous engagement of pure exploration of mystery. Just in you, that girl, that boy, that voice, that energy in us that just wants to lose it, right? So rare do we ever get a chance to just, not just dance in the naked fidelity of our own individual integrity without the conformity of the belief systems of what we shouldn't do. I mean, at times you just got to just release, right? And that is such a difficult, beautiful vision energy to embody, actualize, nurture in our meditation, our yoga. Rather than getting our asana right, we release not into authenticity, but the adventure of the exploration of consciousness embodied in form, in trainings and techniques. But that isn't the deal. It's the expansion of mystical adventure to explore the co-creation through liberty. And that's what's so ever present today on the planet. There's this belief, there's this ongoing developing belief that there's going to be, a Fourth Reich. That's why so many people are talking about Nuremberg-like trials for the lie of the pandemic, the commercialization, the pornography of the money and the capitalism of the virus. I'm not saying that COVID doesn't exist any more than any other viruses, but the pornography that's poured into it. And this adventure, the adventure of life, that's my point. That's what I'm come to today, a little bit deeper. My roots, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'll cry. I'll probably do part 7, 8, 9, 10 of Dancing with the Angel of Death and Uncertain Futures. But by and large, I'm going on the next iteration of the mystical Dhamma adventure. And it's not about leading workshops now on death and dying. It's not about healing. I'll do a few nutrients and this and that to, do what I can to strengthen my arterial walls, heart. I'll keep doing my 5 miles a day of walking. I'll do my 20 to 30 minutes of yoga. I'll keep drinking my wine. But I want to also play, dance, move, think, feel, laugh, do theater, and just serendipity along the landscape of whatever it feels that I want to do with whomever I want to do it in the way that we both want to do it. Where there's mutuality, do it. And I want to explore consciousness in context, in relatedness, and put the same old story of mortality and healing and praise and blame. And I want to quiver. Quiver isn't a bad word. I'll close here. Quiver is a very beautiful word. It's the sensation of elevation. It's the tear of courage birthing itself from the womb of conformity. Very sensitive dimensions where we expand beyond normalcy. Everyone wants to break out of the lockdown of our homes. Every one of us want to confront the propaganda of the media and the politics and the politicalization of the pandemic and the virus and money and Wall Street and inflation and stagflation. Yeah. Noise. Clear. We all want to get to that 4 walls with pit bulls and AK-47s and unlimited supplies of psilocybin and sex. Okay, we all want to be there, right? But where do you want to go, really? And so I invite you, as we close today, go to that special place, talk to her, talk to him, and invigorate the swag. not the influencer swag, just the authentic, pre-authentic, not to sell your Dharma wares, not to be in teacher motif, but get down and go beyond the same old story, as my teacher, Seda U Pandita, told this prominent nun and called her by her Tila Shin name, same old story. It wasn't a negative, but a reminder. Drop that old narrative. And so from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in. Again, may I just reiterate, my friend and Dhamma ally on Maui, Karen Jeffries, if I'm not mistaken, I think she may be tuning in to this broadcast, and perhaps knowing her, she would have put her email into the comments. If that be so, and if you want to participate, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 10 to 1, 1 to 4, 2 segments a day, please contact her. And the protocol, how it's all going to happen, I don't know. She'll have the details. I'll be in communication with her. I'm not sure, but one of my desires is to optimize meeting new people. And again, please don't come wanting to talk about death and dying. Go listen to some Stephen Levine tapes or Ram Dass tapes, but that's not my gig. I don't want to keep going down that. I'll say a few things here and there about how I've processed the edge, but there's also many other interesting places in my heart right now that I want to give life to and voice to. So reach out to her. If there's any way that you could support the creation of Zoom, both with this trans retreat, reach out to Karen or my friend Summer or to me. And that's primarily out of motivation to have question and answers. If you're technologically skilled and you want to monitor the Q&A or the Zoom, please volunteer. If you want to offer anything at all to help support the evolution and the elevation of my life, materially, financially, any way, reach out. I would like to just hang and co-create and do what I want to do in the spontaneity of the mystical adventure. And so may I invite you, come join me in this 3-day event, wherever you are in the world. But only join if you really want to hang in there and participate, especially as one of the 20 for either any of the days or any of the sessions, so that we can optimize the gift of this opportunity. So from my heart to yours, thank you for being in my life, and I hope to see you tomorrow here at 9:30. And I may add here, tomorrow, the 18th of June, which is the 19th of June in Burma, is Daw Aung San Suu Kyi's birthday. Many of you know that she's been unjustly, wrongly detained in an unknown location somewhere in her country by the military terrorist group known by the acronym MASAC, Ming Online, MAH, State Administration Council, SAC. And I want to spend 3 days talking about my relationship to Burma, to her, to democracy, to activism, to the Dhamma, to the meditation, personal stories. I want to offer my support to her colleagues, to the women and the men who are imprisoned. And so if you are interested, tomorrow and the next day, and so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, a 3-part series dedicated to my friend Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. So from my heart to yours, have a beautiful day. Thank you.